truck operator to YouTube phenomenon with nearly 2 million subscribers and millions of views, Matt Wetzel's journey captivated audiences worldwide. However, in 2021, his rising fame came crashing down when he faced a second-degree felony charge for insurance fraud. Despite having over 1 million subscribers and unprecedented public visibility, Matt's business went down the drain. How did all these come to being? Keep watching till the end to find out the true story. The heartbreaking story of Matt. From Matt's off-road recovery by late 2021, Matt Wetzel found himself facing a life-changing moment, one that no YouTuber, especially one beloved for wholesome, rugged vehicle recovery content, ever dreams of going through. Up until then, Matt had carved out a niche for himself with his channel centered around winder towing, his towing business in Utah. Viewers loved the way he pulled vehicles out of tough spots in the wilderness, especially in places like Sand Hollow State Park. His fan base had grown fast, and things looked promising. But then came a twist no one saw coming: legal trouble, and not just any trouble, but serious accusations of insurance fraud involving none other than AAA, a brand many people trust deeply. It all officially began in October 2021, when investigators with Utah's insurance department charged Matt Wetzel with a second-degree felony count of insurance fraud. Sounds heavy, right? That's because it was. The allegations weren't vague either. Authorities claimed that his company, Winder Towing, which at the time was working in partnership with AAA, had submitted a series of insurance claims that included material misrepresentations. These weren't one-off issues either. The claims dated back to the start of 2019 and went all the way through mid-2020. So what exactly were the misrepresentations? According to investigators, they believed these misleading claims resulted in AAA paying out over $15,000 for recoveries that shouldn't have been covered under their policy guidelines. He's known for pulling people out of the mud. But what happens when he's the one stuck in a dark place? Matt's journey looks fun on camera, but behind the scenes, there's pain, loss, and a powerful story you need to hear all the way through. One case, in particular, stood out: a recovery job involving a Polaris RZR, an off-road vehicle, in Sand Hollow State Park around April 2020. Now, anyone familiar with AAA policies might already be raising their eyebrows, because AAA doesn't cover off-road tows. And here's where things got messy. Instead of filing the claim under the actual off-roader's name, it was submitted under the name of his friend, a truck owner who was actually a AAA member. When questioned, even the RZR's owner admitted he had used his buddy's AAA membership. That single claim opened the door for deeper scrutiny, leading investigators to dig further into what else might have slipped through the cracks. When Matt was contacted by authorities in December 2020, he didn't deny responsibility. In fact, he admitted to having submitted the claims. But his explanation painted a more complicated picture, one that suggested the situation wasn't so black and white. He told them that while some of the paperwork might have been questionable from a technical standpoint, the work itself was always performed in good faith. He called it wrong on the front end, but fair on the back, a phrase that many later quoted when debating whether Matt's actions were unethical or simply the result of a flawed system. According to him, there were times when Winder Towing would do the job first without billing anyone immediately, and then have the customer file a claim later to cover the cost. That process, while not illegal in every case, did raise concerns when the claims didn't reflect the actual circumstances accurately. In a Reddit post he made during the heat of it all, Matt gave even more background. He claimed that AAA had been underpaying his company anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 each month during their busiest season. He even pointed out that his field rep from AAA once told him that other rural towing shops had found creative ways to get compensated for their work. Was that a subtle suggestion that bending the rules was quietly accepted? That's what Matt seemed to believe. Still, he was careful to insist that he had never, at any point, taken money he hadn't earned. He stood by the idea that every dollar claimed was for work that was actually done. And just when it seemed like the situation couldn't get more tangled, it did. Matt revealed that a former friend, someone he called KC, had threatened him with blackmail. According to Matt, KC demanded 40% ownership of his YouTube channel and warned that if Matt refused, he would go public with accusations of insurance fraud. Imagine that, a business and legal crisis colliding with personal betrayal. How do you even begin to handle something like that? Matt said the entire experience left him feeling blindsided and hurt. What started as a disagreement over content and business ended with legal threats and a full-blown court case. Eventually, though, the legal process came to a close. Matt avoided the maximum penalty, which could have included up to 15 years in prison and a hefty $10,000 fine. Thanks to a plea deal, the original felony was reduced to a Class A misdemeanor. 5th District Judge Jeffrey Wilcox handed down a sentence that included 18 months of probation and an order for Matt to pay back over $15,000 to AAA and another $1,745 to Utah's Insurance Fraud Division. The Attorney General's office later said they were satisfied with the outcome. From their point of view, justice had been served, Matt was cooperating, reimbursing the money, and the case was closed. Interestingly, Matt's channel never went dark. Even during the height of the investigation, videos continued to be uploaded, and viewers kept watching. His loyal following didn't seem to shrink dramatically, which says something about the strength of the relationship he'd built with his audience. Maybe they saw his transparency during the ordeal as a sign of character. Or maybe they simply liked the content enough to separate the man from the controversy. The man behind the channel, Matt's values and work ethic before Matt's off-road recovery ever became a name that millions would recognize on YouTube, before the channel racked up views in the tens of millions and became a favorite among off-road enthusiasts and everyday people alike. There was simply Matt Wetzel, a man with a past shaped not by algorithms or camera angles, but by real-life, hard-earned lessons. Behind every click and every like, there's a story of someone who didn't set out to become famous, but simply wanted to do right by others. And for Matt, that story begins not with YouTube, but with a pair of work gloves and the kind of jobs that most people try to avoid if they can help it. Matt's early life was marked by the kind of labor that leaves your hands calloused and your muscles sore, but also gives you a certain kind of pride. Roofing, for example, wasn't just a summer gig for him, it was a trial by heat, height, and hustle. He reportedly began working in roofing at a young age, and while most kids were counting down the days to summer break, Matt was up on roofs, learning about precision, stamina, and how it feels to see something come together under your own hands. He often said that those years taught him more than just a trade. They taught him that there's a deep satisfaction in finishing something that's tough, dirty, and real. And isn't that a lesson that sticks with you forever? But it wasn't just roofing that helped shape Matt's character. There was also farming, a lifestyle that doesn't care whether you're tired or if it's the weekend. Farming, as Matt would often reflect, doesn't wait for you to catch your breath. Growing up around agriculture, Matt learned patience in the most humbling way. Imagine waking up at the crack of dawn only to find that your tractor won't start, and there's no mechanic in sight for miles. What do? You figure it out. That's where Matt developed his resourcefulness, the kind that would later help him jerry-rig recovery equipment on the fly and find his way out of mechanical jams that would make most people give up and call for a tow. He also credited the seasonal nature of farming for teaching him how to plan ahead. Crops don't grow by accident, and bad weather doesn't wait for you to be ready. That awareness of timing, preparation, and adaptation became essential tools in his off-road recovery toolkit. So when people see Matt pull off a seemingly impossible recovery in the middle of nowhere, it's not magic. It's a mindset, one that was shaped long before the cameras ever started rolling. But if you're wondering what really drove Matt to create his recovery channel and business, it wasn't just the excitement of pulling stuck vehicles out of sand or mud. It was something deeper, something more human. Matt has often shared that his mission to help people came from personal experience. He knew what it felt like to be stranded, to feel that mix of panic and helplessness when your vehicle is stuck and you have no idea what to do next. And let's be honest, who hasn't felt that way at some point? For Matt, those moments weren't just inconveniences. They were powerful reminders that people need each other, that sometimes even a stranger with the right tools can become your hero for the day. Growing up in a small, close-knit community in southern Utah, Matt saw firsthand how people showed up for one another. Neighbors didn't wait to be asked. They helped because that's just what you did. That idea of helping not because you're getting paid, but because it's the right thing to do, became the foundation for everything Matt built. He said time and time again that the best part of his job isn't the recovery itself. It's the look of relief on a person's face when they realize someone actually showed up to help. That moment, that connection, That's what drives him. And even as the channel grew and the business expanded, Matt never lost that personal touch. He didn't just hand off the dirty work and retreat behind a desk. That's not his style. His approach to leadership, much like his approach to recovery, was hands-on and rooted in real-world experience. If there was a particularly challenging recovery to be done, Matt was right there, boots on the ground, rope in hand, sleeves rolled up. Why? Because, as he's explained before, being a good leader means showing up. It means working alongside your team, not barking orders from a distance. This commitment to staying involved isn't just symbolic, it's practical. Matt's years in the field have given him a sixth sense for recovery work. He can look at a stuck vehicle and know almost instinctively what needs to happen. He can spot the safest route out, the best anchor point, the risks others might miss. That kind of skill? It doesn't come from reading manuals, it comes from doing, failing, adjusting, and doing again. And perhaps what's most surprising to people who discover Matt through YouTube is how genuine he is. That easygoing, respectful tone you hear in his videos? That's not a performance. It's just who he is. Matt said many times that he believes in treating everyone, customers, employees, strangers, with respect and dignity. To him, it's not just about running a business. It's about being a decent human being. Because Matt didn't just wake up one day with a platform or a business. No, he built it brick by brick, moment by moment, choice by choice. And what he built isn't just impressive, it's a blueprint in itself. So sit tight, because what comes next is a deep dive into how Matt built a brand from the ground up, and why so many people now trust him with everything from their homes to their hearts. Building a brand from the ground up. Matt's story didn't begin with dreams of YouTube stardom or some grand plan to become a global name in the off-road recovery world. It started with something far more relatable. A career pivot, a smart business decision, and a deep love for solving problems in the dirt and dust. After spending over a decade in the roofing industry, 12 long years climbing up and down rooftops and even co-owning Skyline Roofing for 2 of those years, Matt felt it was time to try something new. He sold his interest in the company and purchased the assets of a local towing business. Just like that, Red Ryder Towing was born. But this wasn't where things peaked, not even close. In fact, Matt soon found himself making another business move that would completely change the direction of his life. He recalled thinking about the long road ahead and weighing his options carefully. Would it be smarter to build a towing company from scratch, or should he just buy one that already had a foundation? According to him, the answer was clear. In 2013, he took the leap and bought Winder Towing, a more established operation that gave him a head start. That decision opened doors, but it also brought challenges he hadn't expected, like the sudden spike in calls for off-road recovery jobs starting around 2009. At the time, Matt didn't have the proper gear to tackle those gnarly recoveries. Now, most people in his position would have just tried to modify their tow trucks, right? But Matt thought differently. He figured, why not build something brand new from the ground up? So, he went out, got himself a 2001 Jeep Cherokee, built it up, painted it yellow, and unknowingly gave birth to the Banana, a vehicle that would later become iconic in its own right. As more and more recovery stories piled up, Matt found himself constantly sharing wild tales of the job with 2 of his closest friends. Interestingly, one of them was a nuclear engineer and the other an airline pilot, people who had steady, quiet careers with long stretches of downtime. Matt explained that they were living vicariously through his dirt-covered adventures, and it was actually them who first nudged him toward YouTube. They thought, why not turn those jaw-dropping recoveries into something the whole world could see? But Matt was hesitant. I can't even run a laptop, he had admitted with a chuckle. I'm technologically impaired that way. Who hasn't felt that overwhelmed by tech at some point? Still, he gave it a shot. He stumbled across a mobile app called LumaFusion that let him edit videos straight from his iPhone. That's when things started to click. He began filming recoveries himself, sometimes propping his phone up with sticks and rocks or passing it to anyone nearby willing to help. For over a year and a half, he kept up this exhausting rhythm, working a 24-hour towing business during the day and editing videos at night, after his family had gone to bed. He was barely getting any sleep, but he stuck with it. Why? Because something told him it might be worth it. And then it happened. Roughly 6 to 8 months in, One of Matt's videos crossed the 1 million view mark. That was the moment things shifted. From then on, his channel didn't just grow, it exploded. He went from getting just a few thousand views to pulling in hundreds of thousands, and sometimes millions. People were hooked, and Matt realized he had something special. Still, he didn't take that success for granted. He decided to learn more about how the platform worked, so he invested $5,000 into a YouTube growth course taught by Derral Eves. To Matt, it was like cracking a code. He said, "If you can't keep the audience's attention, they'll move on. Everybody's looking for the least boring thing to watch." That simple observation became a driving force behind how he crafted each video, always thinking about how to keep things interesting, honest, and real. A big part of what made his content stand out was his attitude toward the people he helped. Viewers often wondered aloud, what were they thinking? After seeing the situations his customers ended up in. But Matt said he never judged them. He explained that most of the time, they were just people out looking for adventure who happened to get in over their heads. That understanding, that empathy made a big difference. It wasn't just about pulling cars out of sand or snow. It was about connecting with people, helping them, and telling their stories without shame. That humility, that realness, is what made so many people come back to watch video after video. As the YouTube channel grew, so did the team. Matt didn't just build a business, he built a family. The people working alongside him weren't just employees. They were part of something bigger. They laughed together, worked together, and went on the road together as their reach extended further. In fact, Matt started getting calls from way beyond his usual area. He admitted that he couldn't take every job, so he often referred long-distance calls to local volunteer recovery groups, but he still accepted about 40% of them. Why? Because sometimes a story or a situation was just too interesting to turn down. With the YouTube growth came new opportunities. Sure, there was AdSense revenue, but Matt didn't stop there. He got into sponsorships, affiliate partnerships, and started selling branded merchandise. One of the standout successes, his custom line of kinetic recovery ropes. As he proudly shared, every year, we crush the global nylon kinetic rope market. Who would have thought that ropes, yes, ropes, could become such a powerful symbol of the brand? But perhaps the most exciting evolution was the creation of Matt's off-road games. What started as a small business eventually turned into a full-blown brand with its own massive fan event. Held at Sand Hollow State Park, the games brought together off-road experts and YouTube personalities for 3 days of competition, food trucks, meet and greets, vendor shows, and wild prize giveaways. One of the biggest giveaways in 2025. A Polaris XP General 1000 Ultimate worth a jaw-dropping $41,000. It was clear by then, this wasn't just a towing business anymore. It was a full-blown community, a lifestyle, and an entertainment empire with reach far beyond anything Matt had imagined when he first stepped away from the roofing world. When trust breaks, the KC betrayal beyond all the legal trouble that Matt was already facing with AAA. There was something else, something much harder to explain and far more personal, that made everything feel 10 times worse. Because while lawsuits and investigations can shake up your life, it's betrayal from someone you once called a friend that truly cuts deep. And that's exactly what happened. The part that really got to Matt wasn't just the lawyers or the court filings or the stress of trying to defend his business. It was the person who started the fire in the first place. Because it wasn't some random outsider or angry stranger. It was KC. Yes, KC, the same KC who had been there since the very beginning. The guy people saw in almost every early video. The one fans grew familiar with, rooting for, laughing with. He wasn't just a background presence. He was part of the heartbeat of the channel in its early days. For anyone who had followed Matt's journey from day one, KC was more than recognizable. He was practically family. And that's exactly how Matt saw him. Not just as a teammate, but as a true friend, a true